Full card predictions and picks for UFC Vancouver. As always, you can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. At the top of the card, we have Reinier fighting Brendan Allen. Not only is this a tricky main event, but I would argue this is one of the tighter cards of the year. Cases can be made on both sides of a lot of these fights this week, nearly all of them. So proceed with caution and don't be afraid to take some underdogs because I think plenty come through this week, including Brendan Allen. I'm going to give you a second for the more emotional part of the audience to run to the comments to tell me how they stopped watching after I picked against Reinier. I know you're lying, but I'll give you the chance. Go ahead. But truth be told, I like the line for Brendan Allen. I really do. And you might not, but I do.
That's my opinion!
And I think the advantages that he has in this fight just can't be overlooked. Brendan Allen's got much better hands. Striking with RDR can be tricky because of the length, especially those long legs and the knees up the middle, because those step-in knees are killer. But I think if Brendan Allen leans on his boxing, leans on that hand speed, I think he could touch Reinier up with combinations here. I also like the wrestling or the grappling coming from Brendan Allen this week. I know the mat is Reinier world, but that's the point. Reinier isn't going to strike with you for 25 minutes. He's going to look for takedowns here, and Brendan Allen hasn't done well against strong wrestlers in the past. So you know RDR is going to be selling out for these takedowns until he gets them, even if he's just closing distance, tying you up, looking for that clinch, and really making you work in that clinch with those knees to the body, which are just coming in between the trip takedowns, the lifts, the throws, all of that. So if you're Brendan Allen and his team, you know you're going to be on the mat at some point, maybe every round. So you have the choice. Do you try to defend takedowns and strike for as long as possible until you get taken down? Or are you getting some takedowns and getting the fight to the mat on your terms, trying to stay safe in top position? I think the choice is clear. You have to take it to this guy because he's going to get you to the mat one way or the other. So you might as well be in top position when it happens. And for Reinier, I do think that he's rightfully favored here. I totally get it. He's got the full camp. He's coming off of that massive win over Robert Whitaker, and I was singing his praises after that fight.
When he beat the shit out of that guy, I went to the class, I told him how tough my father was.
The adjustments after round one were really something that you only see out of elite fighters, because after the first 5 minutes, as somebody who picked against Bobby Knuckles that night, I was thinking, damn, we're cooked. Like, we really picked against Robert Whitaker. This guy can't strike. But then he found his range. He found what was working for him. That step-in knee really changed the entire complexion of the fight. I think that step-in knee took all Robert Whitaker's energy for the remainder of the fight. Knees, clinch, keeping a reasonably high activity as well. Again, body work. I think both these guys were really worn out after the second round. They both seemed very tired. But I think that grinding style, the grappling, the clinching coming from Reinier, I think that works better when tired than Robert Whitaker's more blitzing, speed-based game. But I think if you're Brendan Allen, you draw confidence from that, because if this guy starts slowing down in front of Brendan Allen, a guy who isn't afraid to take him down, I think he's going to be in trouble. I think a boxing-heavy approach, mixing in some takedowns, is exactly what Brendan Allen needs, and I think he has the skill set to fight that kind of game plan. So I think the line is a little bit too wide for the younger man with the striking edge, the speed. He's one of the few guys that can probably keep up with Reinier on the mat at 185 pounds. And again, I like DeRitter, picked him last time out, but we would have picked Fluffy in this spot as well. I think that these guys are bad matchups for him. So give me the dog here to get it done inside the distance. Give me Brendan Allen, ITD. Next, we're looking at a fight between Kevin Holland and Mike Malott. And I'll tell you, Oscar, when Kevin Holland retires, I will finally have peace. Because to me, he's honestly just too active, right? I'm kind of tired of breaking him down because he's extremely inconsistent fight to fight. And I will say this, and I posted this on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. If you don't follow over there, maybe consider doing it. We have some fun over there. Hear me now. Kevin Holland is better at the sport of MMA than Mike Malott is, but it doesn't really matter. I went back and I watched Mike Malott's fights in UFC, and I don't want to get crucified for saying this, but I have to be honest, I don't think the guy's very good. Striking defense isn't great, wears a ton of damage early on in these fights, hand speed does not jump off the page one bit, cardio obviously suspect, level of competition low even for UFC veteran standards, and on neutral ground, this is Kevin Holland's fight to win. But in Canada, especially with a company guy like Kevin Holland, right? I don't like it. I know every bit of me thinks that Kevin Holland should win, but just won't. I expect him to underperform against a guy who he's better than pretty much everywhere. And we saw him get rocked multiple times by Daniel Rodriguez, dropped by Michal Alexichuk a few fights ago. I think Mike Malott hurts him at some point and probably finishes him. And then we see Kevin Holland pop back up to his feet with a smile on his face, ready to fight in 3 or 4 weeks. I hate hate it. So give me Mike Malott to win. I think he ends up winning inside the distance. Not something I would touch with a 10-foot pole, though. We're going to stay away from it. And next, we're looking at a fight between Marlon Vera. He's fighting Aiemann Zahabi. Marlon Vera in enemy territory this week. Hold on. Have you not liked the video yet? What are you doing? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how it works. This to me feels a lot like the last fight. I think Chito is better, but we all know at times he tends to underperform. And I don't know if you could say totally underperforming because of the fighters that he's competing against, but you look at the fight against Davis and Figueiredo, gets taken down and controlled round one, that famous slow start coming from Chito, which is so frustrating. And then he surprisingly gets dropped in the third round, and it was one of those fights where Vera just never really got out of first gear. And then you look at the fight against Sean O'Malley before that, same thing. Over 5 rounds, Chito really didn't let his hands go. He just got nullified by movement, by speed, by volume, and just kind of sat there and let Sugar Sean do whatever he wanted. We all know that he kind of has a tendency to wait for his openings, and then once he has these openings, really making guys pay. We saw that in the Rob Font fight. We saw that in the Dominic Cruz fight, but he's getting his ass kicked between these big moments, but these big moments are either fight ending or round stealing, so he gets away with it. But if those big moments don't happen, he will lose the round. Now on the other side, Aiemann Zahabi is a smarter fighter, very intelligent fighter who comes up with smart game plans, listens to his coach, great preparation, okay power in the hands, hand speed, nothing to write home about, and not much of a kicking game, but he makes a lot of good decisions. Now these guys are around the same size, they throw around the same kind of volume. They both are going to elect to strike over grappling more often than not. So when you get fighters that are evenly matched like this, at least on paper, and I think the odds are kind of indicative of that as well, you normally want to go with the fighter who's going to make more good decisions as the fight's going on. And one of the reasons why I think he's such an intelligent fighter is because he does a really good job of like playing with the distance. He knows when to concede space, when to compete for space, when to command space. You look at that fight against Jose Aldo, round one, he's getting pressured by Aldo, backing up, letting Aldo do pretty much whatever he wants until the end of the round where he stands his ground, picks up the activity a little bit, and almost steals the round. But he's going from conceding to competing for space when it matters most, when the judges are really paying attention, because I think for the first 4 minutes, most of them are just playing like Candy Crush or something. But round two is when he flips the script. Now he's pressuring forward. Not only is he competing for space, but he's commanding the space. And that's when he's taking it to Aldo a little bit, especially later in the round. Then round three comes. Aldo drops him multiple times, but Zahabi, still visibly rocked, was smart enough to stand his ground and pressure forward the moment Aldo decided to take a second to breathe. And that moment produced one of the most vicious glancing at the clock moments in MMA history, where Aldo looks up and there's 3 minutes left, and you could see him like almost double take, where he glances up and he's like, huh? Aldo already kind of demoralized from not getting the finish that he thought he was about to get. Now he looks up at the clock, sees there's so much time left, just dumbfounded, and then Zahabi takes it to him and steals the round. Almost a 10-8 round in the other way for Aiemann Zahabi with the way those last 3 minutes went. So this is tough. Both guys tend to be in close fights. Both guys have had their fair share of close decisions, split decisions, maybe things that should have went their way or should not have went their way that did go their way. I think Zahabi has better fight IQ, more layers to his game as far as deciding when and why to do things, while for Chito it's more just scrap. And it's one of those cards, man. Like I said, I think it could go either way. But I do think that Marlon Vera is more skilled. I can trust him a little bit more than I could trust somebody like Kevin Holland, because Chito's come up big before. He doesn't really have to worry about takedowns here, which I think is huge. And this is a 3-round fight, right? So he's not trying to preserve any cardio for later in the fight. And I know Chito's a cardio monster. He doesn't really need to pace himself, but sometimes psychologically, these guys just do that, right? But I think that this fight can end up looking a lot like the Pedro Munoz fight that Marlon Vera had, where round one, on the gas right away, letting his hands go. If he does that this week and just starts flowing from the opening bell, I think that Aiemann Zahabi's really going to have a problem with the power coming back his way. I think that both these guys are going to land around the same amount of strikes, but I think Chito's going to get bigger reactions with the punches, with the kicks, with the length that he has in the lower half of his body. Like, those are some long legs. So the low kicks are going to be there, the teeps are going to be there, the crescent kick inside like we saw again against Pedro Munoz, I think that's going to be there as well. And Aiemann Zahabi tends to lean forward a little bit. Aldo was catching him because of that. So I think that Chito is going to pull it off, but I wouldn't be surprised to just see him lose a fight that he could have won, but just lets these moments slip by. Obviously, you have to worry about home cooking anywhere you go, but I do think that Marlon Vera is going to do a little bit more, maybe get a knockdown at some point in this fight. Give me Marlon Vera to win this fight by decision. Next, we have Manon Fiorot fighting Jasmine Jasudavicius, another live dog in Canada with all this momentum, riding a 5-fight winning streak at these odds.
Stop it. Get some help.
You're right, Mike. Thank you. I got a little excited. Now that I've calmed down and come to my senses a little bit, this is a Manon Fiorot W all the way. And decision, dare I say.
It's free real estate.
It's easy to get caught up in the glamour of a win streak, but Manon Fiorot is levels above anybody Jasmine Jasudavicius has beaten in the UFC. Fiorot also takes away a lot of the advantages that Jasmine Jasudavicius tends to enjoy in a lot of these fights that she's winning. Jasmine's bigger, she's stronger, a better grappler than the women that she's fighting. Manon Fiorot's got elite takedown defense, she's physically stronger than Jasudavicius, and I could see her getting right back in the title conversation with a win here. Coming off that very competitive fight with Valentina Shevchenko, got some timely takedowns, got touched up at points, but still just hung tough, gave her a hard 5 rounds. And plus, the fights that we've seen Jasudavicius lose, she hasn't been able to get her opponents to the mat. She lost to Tracy Cortez and Natalia Silva. She couldn't control Tracy Cortez, and I'm convinced she couldn't even see Natalia Silva. That woman was a ghost in there that night. So I think that if she gets stranded on the feet, she's going to struggle, and I don't see a situation where Manon Fiorot is getting taken down and controlled for minutes on end. I do think that these women are going to stand, and I think Manon Fiorot is going to get the better of those striking exchanges over and over and over again, cruising to a win on the scorecards, giving Manon Fiorot by decision. And she probably finds herself on the official betting article of the week. That could be found on kunithmma.com, completely free. Just need to make an account and it is on there. Last week we were profitable, right? And we almost got screwed out of it, but I'll show you here. Walter Walker by submission was free real estate that we ended up losing out on. That sucks, and then we lost out on it because Mo Usman ran for the hills, so this gets voided. Stuart Nickel showed up drunk. I'm convinced that's a bad one. That's on me. That's bad. Bia Mosquito submission, crazy. Should have went heavier here, although I think Jason Herzog had the same ticket because that fight could have been stopped by TKO early. The 3-legger with Filio, Petrino, and Ramos almost hits. Ramos gets extremely screwed by Mark Goddard, who just let Con Offley crawl up the fence whenever he wanted to get out of a submission, to reverse position, just ridiculous stuff. But we end up losing that one. But you know, Charles DuBronx got you in the end to leave us profitable on the night. Again, official betting article as well as the DFS strategy guide is on kunithmma.com. That's linked in the description and in a pinned comment. Back to the breakdown. Next, we're looking at a fight between Cody Gibson fighting Aoriqileng. This is really going to come down to whether or not you think Cody Gibson's going to secure takedowns. Aoriqileng's had real bad takedown defense throughout his UFC career, lost his last fight because of it against Raul Rosas Jr., where Raul Rosas Jr., he wasn't like dominating in that fight, but he was just controlling Aoriqileng really easily. And that's also because you're seeing triangle from the bottom, closing that guard, just no real get up game, which is ridiculous. And on the feet, Aoriqileng was winning. He was winning all the striking exchanges. That's why he took the second round off of him. And you go back, you watch the fight against Johnny Munoz. He gets taken down in round 1, gets his back taken, nearly submitted, lots of control, ends up winning that fight. Against Jay Perrin, he gets taken down in every round, but he ends up winning that fight. But against guys with really good control who can get him to the mat, he's going to struggle. And that is Cody Gibson. Wrestling coach, has leaned on that grappling recently. That's helped him put together a couple of wins in the UFC. Very long as well for the division, which not only helps when you're striking, but also helps when it comes to controlling people on the mat, because you're able to post really well, you're able to wrap them up really well. So a lot of advantages for Cody Gibson this week. It's really his fight to lose. My problem with Cody Gibson, though, I think the difference here is what happens on the feet, because there's just no pop on the end of his shots. Now, Aoriqileng, he's got like that thudding power that you see out of a lot of these like Chinese fighters, is that when they're landing, the hands aren't moving that fast, but when they do land, you see it lands with a different kind of power, not like a blow your face off Ilia Topuria kind of power, but just like a thudding, like damn, that hurt kind of power. He's wobbling guys constantly, and I think Cody Gibson could be wobbled and rocked and dropped and maybe even knocked out this week, because while the fight is standing, I think Aoriqileng runs away with it. Of course, on the mat, there's a gap there as well. I think the striking gap and the grappling gap are about the same. Again, I worry about the closed guard, body triangle from bottom, not getting the legs involved, staying flat as a pancake. That happens with this guy, so I worry about that but I like taking a chance here with these odds, especially after his last fight and how he got controlled. He goes back and watches that film, sees all the things that we're talking about right now. You can't do that again. If you do anything else, you'll have more success, and I think he'll build on that. So again, I understand the grappling gap. I think the striking gap is just as wide, if not wider. I'll take the younger man here, the underdog, the better striker. Can't trust the 38-year-old Cody Gibson at those odds. So give me the power puncher here. I'll take Aoriqileng by decision. Next, we have a couple of chinny misters with Kyle Nelson fighting Matt Frevola. They're going to play who can fall asleep first, and I'm all for it because both guys coming off of bad knockout losses. Both have been knocked out plenty of times before. Truly a coin flip kind of fight here. With that said, I do lean Matt Frevola. This is a lightweight fight. Kyle Nelson's been fighting at 145. I think the physicality difference that Matt Frevola's had to deal with versus what Kyle Nelson has had to deal with will make a difference here. Matt Frevola's been fighting tougher competition up a weight class, while Kyle Nelson's been fighting slightly lesser competition down a weight class. And in the fights that Matt Frevola's winning, he's knocking these guys out, and not just knocking anybody out. His first guy knocked out Drew Dober, which we called on the channel. While Kyle Nelson's grinding out decisions against lesser competition at 145, I think he's more managing fights than aggressively looking to finish fights the way Matt Frevola is. Again, you can't really trust chins on either side, but I think the physicality, pace, power coming from the steamroller is going to get it done this week. Give me Matt Frevola by knockout. This is a banger of a fight at 135 pounds between Charles Jourdain. He's fighting Davey Grant. Both guys looking to stand and bang. Charles Jourdain, big body for 135 pounds. Obviously, somebody was fighting at 145 for a long time, coming down, picking up a win over Victor Henry, which was a submission, by the way. Huge feather in the cap. Did get taken down a lot in that fight, and that's kind of been the thorn in his side since coming into the UFC, is that he doesn't have great takedown defense, but he's developed this excellent guillotine, and he's probably rounded out that part of his game a little bit more than early in his UFC run. But he doesn't have to worry about wrestling this week. Davey Grant's not trying to take you down. Davey Grant secured 1 takedown in his last 8 fights. This guy wants to stand, he wants to bang, and Grant's looked good lately, right? He won against Damon Blackshear as a sizable underdog. That was surprising. He pieced up Ramon Taveras. That was cool. Should have gotten the win over Daniel Marcos, but kind of got screwed on the decision there. But he's tricky, he's long, he's a gamer, and you could say all the same things about Charles Jourdain. I think it's going to be a war. I think it goes the full 3 rounds. Taking the over makes the most sense here, given what these guys do typically in the octagon. But you have to ask yourself, who's going to get the benefit of the doubt in these close rounds? Probably the Canadian. Crowd on his side. Doesn't hurt that he's 10 years younger. Doesn't hurt that he typically throws a little bit more volume than his counterpart as well. So I'm going to take Chucky J to get it done here. Give me Charles Jourdain to win this fight by decision. By far my favorite fight on the card. Bruno Silva fighting Peace of Mind Park. Respect to Park for taking this fight after daring to be great last time out against Tatsuro Taira on short notice. Wasn't even close though, to be fair. But he gave it his best shot. And when you take these steps up in competition, that tends to happen, right? He was fighting guys that were Then he saves the day by keeping the event alive, fighting Tatsuro Taira. Super cool. Ends up paying the price for it though. But now you get a fight against Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva is no stranger to these tough matchups either. This guy's coming off of back-to-back knockout losses to Josh Van, where he just got battered. He fought Manel Kape as well. And you start to look at his run in the UFC, it's kind of crazy. Manel Kape, Josh Van, Cody Djorden, Tyson Nam, who can hit like a truck on a good day, Tagir Ulanbekov, prime David Dvorak. That's a tough run. While Hyun Park has faced Burgers and Tatsuro Taira. So I couldn't believe the betting line when I saw it. And this is why it's my favorite fight of the card. Bruno coming in at more than a 2-to-1 underdog. Crazy. Hyun Park is solid everywhere, but the thing that's been holding him back, I think, in my opinion, is that he doesn't have the best chin going. Now, he hasn't been knocked out, but he has gotten dropped in 3 of his last 5 fights, and the 2 guys that didn't drop him have no power. They're not dropping anybody. But lesser fighters with lesser power have dropped this guy in the past. Bruno Silva, before the last 2 fights that he's had, his knockdown rate for 125 pounds has been absurd. I think he catches Park's chin this week. I think Park is going to have to wrestle if he wants to have success, and against a smaller guy who's just as long as him as far as reach goes, I think he's going to pay the price for closing that distance, and I think the shorter man's going to catch him on the chin a couple of times here and knock him out at some point. Crazy odds, in my opinion. So give me the Brazilian, give me the old dog to get it done here. Dynamite in his hands. I love it. I absolutely love it. Give me Bruno Silva by knockout. Danny Barlow's coming in as a pretty big favorite after getting packed up by Sam Patterson. I like that he's moving up to 185 though. I think that he was trying to get away with not being a weight bully, but just wanting that size advantage at 170 pounds, and it's just not a good look. Compromising himself, fighting at maybe 75 to 80% of what he could be doing. I think 185 is going to serve him really well against the guy in Jourdain Santos, or Djorden Santos, excuse me, whatever, however you say it. We picked Ozzy Diaz against this guy, and it worked out because this guy just walks into stuff, and I think that left hand to God is just going to set him up, pull him in, put that left hand on him, and knock him out at some point. I get this guy that's kind of like a zombie, right? He could take some big shots. We saw that against Ozzy Diaz, but I think better athlete, harder puncher, longer arms coming from Danny Barlow is going to give him hell. Rightfully favored, not a fight that you're dying to play. I think it's more of like a DFS play with Danny Barlow looking for that first round upside, but I think that Santos is going to serve up that chin on a silver platter. So give me Memphis's own, guy who listens to a lot of young Dolph Merzick. Give me give me Danny Barlow by knockout. Okay, I very obviously have the odds flipped for this one. And so yes, Drew Dober is over a minus 500 favorite, as he should be. This guy is local, right? He can make the card, he can show up. Drew Dober spinning that jaw. Give me Drew Dober by knockout. Next, we have a fight between Stephanie Luciano fighting Ravena Oliveira. Stephanie Luciano lets those things go, man. She really does. And I think that Ravena Oliveira, with the long layoff, hasn't won in the UFC yet. I think she's going to struggle here. I think she's not really somebody who's long for the UFC roster. These odds don't surprise me one bit. I think that's a little bit of parlay fodder for you for Stephanie Luciano. So don't be surprised if Luciano ends up taking this one on the scorecards. I think she's a better athlete. I think she's more active. I think that she is UFC caliber. I can't say the same thing for Oliveira. So give me Stephanie Luciano to win this fight by decision. Azamat Bekoev fighting, I'm just going to call him Antonio Trocoli. That's what I see. Just another one of these real tall, long guys showing up and getting starched by somebody who's a little bit shorter, but a much better fighter, much more polished prospect. Azamat Bekoev, fighting out of American top teams, should be competing against the best fighters in the division. This is a walk in the park for him. He can win however he wants. I think he's probably going to end up taking this guy down, though. You don't really want to play that game on the feet with a big, tall power puncher like this. Just go down to the mat where you're the same size and then do your work. I think Azamat Bekoev by submission is a pretty nice play this week. Keep an eye out for it. And then lastly, this is something I was excited to talk to you guys about. We've seen this situation so many times, and I feel like maybe we haven't taken full advantage of it. How many times have we seen a card in a specific region, right? It's not in Vegas, right? This card is in Canada. We have a Canadian prospect who's coming in with a decent amount of hype, somebody who's gotten slowly built over time, big body for the division. What does the UFC want? Tell me, I'll give you a second. It's like an episode of Dora the Explorer. You can tell me, I'll pause. You're right, the UFC wants to build her up. Good job. Tainara Lisboa, old, inactive, was battling through injury, looked terrible last time out, got stuck in bottom position, had absolutely no answers for it against a big body fighting in her front of her people. Gonna take her down, gonna beat the brakes off her. Shocking line here. This is one you have to take advantage of. Absolutely take advantage of. Melissa Croden should be like a minus 200, minus 300 favorite here just because of the situation surrounding this. So I think Croden wins inside the distance. I think a ground and pound finish is absolutely on the table because Tainara Lisboa, put that lady down, she ain't getting back up. Start your night on the right foot by taking a heavy stance, heavy position on Melissa Croden. She absolutely wins this week, and I think it's inside the distance. But the money line's good enough. Don't get greedy, but maybe a little bit on knockout lines. But that'll do it for predictions. As always, I really appreciate you guys watching and making it till the end. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. I'll see you later in the week for final picks. Let's go.